Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I'm a 16-year-old with autism and Asperger's. I've had some major health issues that kept me out of regular school for a couple of years. Because of this, I'm now attending this special program that teaches workplace skills and helps us figure out our future careers. It's pretty laid back compared to regular school, which works great for me. Recently, I discovered this amazing book series called Wings of Fire. I know some people might think it's childish for someone my age to be reading books about dragons, but honestly, I don't care. These books just clicked with me in a way nothing else has before. Now about my aunt. She's basically the UK version of a Karen, you know the type. She's got the stereotypical haircut, believes everything she reads on sketchy websites, and thinks the world revolves around her. My parents can't stand her either, but they keep in touch because her kids are actually really nice people, unlike their mother. So last week, she decided to drop by our house for one of her surprise visits. I was in my room minding my own business, reading my favorite Wings of Fire book, Moon Rising, when she barged in. She asked me what I was reading, and I simply told her it was just a book series I liked. That's when she spotted the dragon on the cover and absolutely lost it. She started screaming about how I shouldn't be reading these evil books, claiming dragons were an embodiment of Satan, and declaring she wouldn't allow her nephew to be raised on satanic books. My stepmom and dad quickly pulled her out of my room and shut the door. I could hear her going on and on about how I was being corrupted, but I just left it off and went back to reading. Later, my parents told me she'd gone on this crazy rant about how the author drinks baby blood and worships the devil. We all had a good laugh about it. A few days later, I was at my program and we finished early. I decided to read my book while waiting for pickup time. My stepmom was waiting outside in the car when I walked out, book in hand. That's when I heard her scream for me to stop. I turned around to see my aunt marching toward me like she was on a mission from hell itself. She started yelling about how she had told me not to read these books and that they were making me evil. When I asked her how she even knew I was here, she admitted she'd been waiting for me to come out with what she called those nasty books so she could finally take them away from me. Before I could react, she snatched the book from my hands, threw it on the wet pavement, and started ripping it to pieces. What she didn't know was that I actually had a spare copy at home. My nice but slightly dim uncle had accidentally bought me 2 copies of the same book. I pretended to be devastated while my stepmom glared at her. My stepmom warned her that she could call the police for damaging personal property. That's when Karen suddenly realized she might be in trouble. She had this bottle of water with her, and in her panic she threw the book down, splashed the water at me, and ran away, like her life depended on it. We reported her to the police, and even though they initially said there wasn't enough evidence, they ended up investigating her anyway. When the police showed up at her house, she tried to run away. But cops are faster than entitled ants, it turns out. She's now being investigated for multiple charges, including destruction of property and harassment. I heard that she is facing potential jail time, which honestly couldn't have happened to a more deserving person. The funny thing is, I'm still reading Wings of Fire with my spare copy, and there's nothing she can do about it. I've always had what my friends call a curse. People constantly mistaking me for an employee wherever I go. It doesn't matter what I'm wearing or what I'm doing, somehow random strangers zero in on me like heat-seeking missiles, convinced I must work there. My father says it's not a curse, but as I keep telling him, it's never helped my finances, my career, or my love life, and it annoys me to no end. Therefore, it's a curse. I suppose I should explain that I work in corporate finance and I dress pretty professionally most days. But even on my casual days, when I'm wearing the most unemployee-like outfits imaginable, it still happens. Some friends suggest it's because I have what they call resting nice face, though I personally don't see it when I look in the mirror. This past Saturday, I was doing my weekly grocery shopping at Wegmans. Now let me paint you a picture. Wegmans employees wear either black or bright colored shirts with the store's logo, a name tag, and black, gray, or khaki pants. Pretty standard uniform, right? Meanwhile, I was wearing a very light blue shirt, blue jeans, had my sunglasses tucked into my collar, and was sporting a blue face mask covered in Mickey Mouse designs. Nothing even remotely close to the store uniform. I was minding my own business in the dairy section, taking yogurts off the shelf and putting them into my shopping cart, when I felt someone's presence behind me. I turned around to find a middle-aged woman staring at me expectantly. She asked if I worked there. I gestured at my clothing, thinking it would be obvious, but she just kept staring at me blankly. I asked her if she could see anything on my clothing that said Wegmans. She replied that she had seen me stocking shelves. I had to explain to her that I was actually taking things off the shelf and putting them in my shopping cart, and pointed out how obvious it was that I didn't work at Wegmans. She still persisted, saying she just wanted to ask a question. Finally, I told her to look for someone wearing a Wegmans shirt and name tag, as that would be an actual employee. I walked away with my cart before she could respond, but I could feel her glaring daggers at my back. The audacity of some people just astounds me. Do they really not want to admit they're wrong, even when it makes them look increasingly foolish? What makes this situation even more bizarre is that there were actual Wegmans employees nearby, wearing their proper uniforms with name tags and everything. But no, she had to zero in on the person wearing a Mickey Mouse face mask and casual clothes. This isn't even close to being the worst incident. One time I was at a hardware store wearing a bright pink sweater and floral leggings. Nothing like their orange uniform vests. And someone still insisted I must work there because they saw me organizing shelves. I was just putting back some items I decided not to buy. Another memorable incident happened at a bookstore where I was simply alphabetizing some books I was considering purchasing. I'm a bit obsessive about organization, and 3 different people asked me for help within 5 minutes. The actual employees were wearing bright red vests with the store logo emblazoned on them. I was wearing a band t-shirt and ripped jeans. The really frustrating part is that these people never just accept a simple "I don't work here" and move on. They always have to argue about it as if I'm lying about my employment status. I've had people demand to speak to my manager at stores I don't work at, accuse me of being lazy and not wanting to help, and even try to report me to actual store employees for refusing to do my job. Just last month, I had someone follow me around a department store for 15 minutes, increasingly getting angry because I wouldn't help them find the housewares section. I was wearing a wedding dress at the time. I was there for a fitting. But apparently, in their mind, that was just an elaborate ruse to avoid helping customers. What makes today's interaction even more ridiculous is that I was wearing a face mask that covered half my face. So the whole resting nice face theory doesn't even apply. I swear the store uniform could be nothing but blue clothing from head to toe. And if I walked in wearing a chicken costume, people would still push past actual employees to ask if I work there. After today's incident, I decided to conduct a little experiment. I went back to my cart and continued shopping, but this time I counted how many actual Wegmans employees I passed who were wearing proper uniforms. By the time I reached the checkout, I had counted 12 employees, all clearly identifiable in their branded shirts and name tags. Yet somehow, the woman in need of assistance had bypassed all of them to reach me, the person wearing Mickey Mouse on their face. To make matters even more satisfying, as I was checking out, I spotted the same woman talking to an actual employee who was pointing her toward what appeared to be the aisle she had wanted to find in the first place. And I couldn't help but wave cheerfully as I walked past with my bags. I guess some people just can't handle being wrong, even when the evidence is literally wearing Mickey Mouse on their face. I've been working at this marina for about 3 years now, and honestly, it was a perfect job for me and my German Shepherd. We cruise around in our golf cart, keeping an eye on things, making sure everyone was safe and following the rules. The beach was beautiful, the people were generally nice, and I got paid to basically hang out in paradise with my best friend. Life was good. Then the pandemic shutdown happened. While everywhere else closed their doors, we stayed open since we were an outdoor venue. That's when everything changed. Being one of the few places people could actually go to, we got swamped with visitors. Don't get me wrong. I understand everyone needed an escape, but the new crowd, they were different. The respect for the place just wasn't there anymore. My job shifted from being a friendly face to becoming more of an enforcer. People started treating our beautiful beach like their personal dumpster. The worst was the parking lot. Folks would empty their entire car's worth of trash right there before leaving. When I'd stop them at the gate and refuse to let them out until they cleaned up their mess, you'd think I was asking them to donate a kidney. I would tell them I couldn't open the gate until they picked up their trash. They'd always respond with denial, claiming the trash was already there. When I point out that I literally watched them dump it from their car, they'd get angry and tell me I couldn't keep them there. One time, this lady, let's call her Karen, actually called the police and reported me for kidnapping. Yeah, you heard that right. Kidnapping. Because I wouldn't let her leave until she picked up her McDonald's bags that she'd dumped right in front of me. When the cop showed up, I was nervous at first, but then he just laid into her. He asked her if she was serious, explaining that this wasn't kidnapping and that I was just doing my job. When she complained that I wouldn't let her leave, he told her straightforwardly that all she had to do was pick up her trash and she could go. He even warned her that next time he'd write her a ticket for littering. That incident actually gave me more confidence in enforcing our rules. But nothing prepared me for what happened last week. I was doing my usual rounds when I spotted this family packing up to leave. They had completely trashed their picnic area, and when I say trashed, I mean trashed. There were dirty diapers just sitting on the table, food scattered everywhere, plastic bags blowing in the wind. It was like they'd hosted a birthday party for 100 toddlers and then let a tornado hit it. As I watched them walk away, something caught my eye on their table, a large set of keys. They looked expensive, probably for a fancy car or maybe even a boat. That's when I had an idea. I took my time cleaning up their mess, carefully collecting every piece of trash they'd left behind. Sure enough, about 20 minutes later, a man came speed walking towards me, trying to act casual but clearly panicking. He asked me if I had seen any keys around the area. I looked up from my cleaning dirty diaper in hand and gave him my best innocent smile. I told him I couldn't recall seeing any keys, but suggested he check the trash bin where I'd been putting all the garbage from cleaning up this disaster. I made sure to place the dirty diaper right on top, poo side down. The man's face went through about 5 different emotions in 3 seconds. He just mumbled an "oh" and right under his breath. He stood there watching me clean, probably hoping I'd slip up and reveal I had the keys. I just kept smiling and cleaning, occasionally making eye contact with him. The beautiful thing was, he couldn't even accuse me of anything. What was he going to say? I think you have my keys that I left at the table where my family trashed everything and walked away from. They ended up staying in the parking lot for hours, probably trying to figure out what to do. I'd drive by in my golf cart every now and then, waving cheerfully each time. My dog seemed especially happy that day too, like he knew we were serving some justice. Round and round I go, making an extra line through the lot each time I passed. I could have made life easier for them, sure, but sometimes people need to learn the hard way. After about 4 hours, they finally gave up and called a tow truck. When they were loading up their car to be towed, I did one final drive-by. The man looked at me and I swear there was a moment of understanding between us. He knew exactly what had happened. And he knew exactly why. The next day I found those keys had mysteriously made their way to the marina's lost and found box, but by then the lesson had already been learned, at least for that family. I'm a working mother of 2 kids, aged 8 and 11, living on the West Coast while my parents are on the East Coast. The distance has always been a blessing and a curse. Blessing because it gives us space, curse because when they visit, they really visit. Let me give you some context. My parents have always been different. My mother especially has severe anxiety issues and rarely leaves their house back home. My father enables her behavior, and neither of them seems to understand basic social boundaries. I love them, but managing them is like having two extra children. So when they announced they were coming to visit, I knew I was in for a challenge. My father booked a normal 6-day round-trip ticket. My mother, however, decided she would book a one-way ticket. No return date, just open-ended. When she told me about booking her ticket, she was extremely excited about seeing me and the kids. I asked her about her return date, trying to be casual about it. She replied that she hadn't decided yet, suggesting she might stay for a month or two because she needed a break from everything back home. I immediately told her that was way too long and we couldn't host her for that duration. She pulled the mother card, saying she barely got to see her grandchildren. When I explained that we had our routines, work, and school, and that a week or two was our maximum, she broke down crying and accused me of not wanting her around, bringing up everything she'd done for me. The conversation ended with her sobbing, and my father called me later to tell me I was being insensitive to her anxiety issues. But I stood my ground. When they arrived, things started okay. Dad was normal enough, helping with dishes and trying to keep Mom calm. But 3 days in, Mom had her first meltdown because my daughter didn't want to sit and watch TV with her all afternoon. She broke down sobbing, complaining that nobody wanted to spend time with her despite coming all this way. When I explained that my daughter had homework and after-school activities and couldn't sit inside all day, she brought up how I used to love spending time with her at that age. I had to point out that I only did that because she never gave me a choice, and I didn't want my kids to feel trapped like I did. The real drama started when Dad's departure date approached. Mom started hinting about extending her stay beyond our agreed 2 weeks. She suggested staying until after Easter, which was 2 months away. When I reminded her we'd agreed on 2 weeks, she tried to justify it by saying she was comfortable here and helped with the kids. I had to be blunt and tell her that she didn't actually help with the kids, but instead expected them to entertain her, while I was stuck working from home and managing her anxiety attacks. This made her cry again, accusing me of being cruel and saying she'd raised me better than this. That's when I'd had enough. I sat them both down for a serious conversation that should have happened years ago. I announced that I'd booked Mom a non-refundable flight home for the day after Dad was leaving. Mom was outraged, pulling the mother card again. Dad tried to calm things down, but I told them both that I wasn't just their daughter anymore. I was a mother with my own family and responsibilities. I explained that I couldn't put my life on hold for months to manage Mom's anxiety and gave her 2 options: take the flight I booked or stay at an Airbnb. Mom had a complete meltdown, accusing me of breaking her heart after everything they'd done for me. When Dad suggested they should look into those Airbnbs, Mom was shocked that he was taking my side. The next few days were tense, but I didn't back down. Mom tried every manipulation tactic she knew, guilt-tripping, crying, and even trying to turn my kids against me by telling them I was sending their grandmother away. But my kids were actually relieved. My daughter even commented that Grandma made everyone sad with her constant crying. In the end, Mom took the flight home, but not before declaring I was a terrible daughter and she'd never visit again. Dad apologized as they left, admitting they might have been pushing boundaries. It's been a month now. Mom's still not speaking to me, sending messages through my father instead. But honestly, the peace in our house is worth it. My kids are happier, I'm more productive, and for the first time in years, I don't dread their visits. Because now there are clear boundaries. Yesterday, I got a message from Dad saying Mom's seeing a therapist for her anxiety. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.